Hello and welcome back to another episode of Financially Forever After a Love and Money podcast. We are your hosts, Lindsay and
Brett the Money Maker, Schunkweiler.
Here to give you some relationship and love tips as well as
Financial tips.
or tariff tips.
That was last time, but yes, or tariff tips.
What's going on in the world with all the changes and
all the changes, what's happening right now, how some topics today could affect you for what you're going to do about this time of year. So we'll see.
At meaning winter or just the time of
first few months of the year.
Okay,
we'll put it that way.
interesting. I look forward to hearing about that.
Okay.
What else is new in your world, Brett Schunkweiler?
Oh, geez. Well,
It's cold as it's an Arctic, what do they call it? Arctic
blast.
Kind of they called it something last year, but we are in the pit of the Arctic hell right now. The temperatures,
as you would say, it's been cold as balls lately. That's what you would say.
Balls.
I'm like, I don't know if that applies, but I don't know how that relates in any capacity, but okay.
It is what with the wind chill was a negative 25 or something like that the last few days. So my kids have been home and I do a lot of majority of my work from home. So it's been really interesting having them home for over a week and not really being able to leave the house much because it's so cold out. We've just been on top of each other and they're pretty self-sufficient, but they still don't realize when you're home, you're not readily available to them. So they just come in and ask all these questions or want to get on my computer. I'm like, no, I need my computer. So, and you've happily...
Mommy needs her space.
Yeah, you've happily got to escape to the office, which has been nice.
Yeah, I had a one work trip out of town for a couple of days, and it was cold as could be there too, and had to worry about traveling and getting back.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
They do the roads pretty well. So
luckily,
it's all
you
good.
did not have to fly.
Luckily, yeah. There's been a lot of plane issues here.
I don't know. We have to go on a plane in a
weeks.
couple of weeks, and I'm already I'm going to need some heavy Xanax to get me on that plane. I don't know.
What do we do in the last month? What, 4 crashes, 3 crashes?
They have said it's not something that's new. Plane stuff or instances have been happening. It's just how much the media is now reporting on it.
Hold your horses. I've never heard of a plane landing and flipping upside down.
I mean, weird things have happened like that, but yeah, that is obviously an extreme situation. In their defense, they were landing in Canada, and I think the runway was a little slick, and then they kind of were coming in. I don't know if it was windy, but it was overcompensating, and then they did land. But then as soon as their wheels hit the runway, they flipped. So it had to have been something slick.
And you said here recently they did a $30,000 settlement per person.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, 30,000.
How do you feel about that?
I don't think that's near enough. My mental state alone would need more than 30,000. You're literally hanging upside down, strapped by your waist, hoping that it's tight enough. I know I'm guilty of not tightening my belt as much as it probably should be. Or even with our kids loosely just have it hanging there. So if you were to flip upside down.
Yeah, I'd be more worried for my, wife or kids.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm like, shoot, if I can get hurt or if I just fell on top, $30,000.
Yeah, but you have to think everything that came down on them as they're flipped upside down, you would have got hit with things.
Probably.
You could have back issues.
I mean, the bag's underneath.
Right. Everything.
But if you're strapped in and stay strapped in, I'm just like,
But those things would have hit you on the way to the bottom, which was now the ceiling.
Potentially.
Yeah. So people have said either even back issues alone of having that momentum of you were sitting like this and all of a sudden you're flipped upside down.
You'd have to
could
think
be good on you.
It would depend on the severity of it. You would think you would all right, well, you get trauma from it, $10,000. You have all these issues, $100,000. You'd think you negotiate.
You think $10,000 is enough after being flipped upside down in an airplane?
I mean,
I'm not Sue hungry,
I'm
but
pretty low
things
key,
like
so
that. I don't know. So on the other,
I'd just be happy I wasn't dead.
On the other instance, the tragedy that did happen in Washington, the one that did explode and families died. I believe I read one of the family members is suing for $250 million.
Wow.
Which kudos to them. I mean, it was an avoidable accident to me. That's my opinion. So yeah, you have the tragedy of losing a family member like that, I mean, I'd go for the neck as well. So,
sad.
So who knows? That's just obviously the first family member to come forward with that. I'm sure there's going to be many more in that regard.
Cross our fingers for safe travels, and for anybody else that's flying
if you're
right
traveling,
now.
Godspeed. Either Xanax or vodka might help you get through that.
Just don't do them together.
So kind of touching on the media, because obviously this is all coming from the media. But our topic today on relationship is how society, movies, books, social media can paint unrealistic pictures of what a relationship should look like. So think back to all of our rom-coms from the early 2000s or chick flicks that I make you watch.
I just watched one with the kids the other day. It was pretty good.
What was it? Oh, the Ireland one?
We watched the Ireland one, but then
we watched 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You. But I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that, or if I did, it was a long time ago.
I don't know if that one paints realistic. I don't know.
No.
That was like a teen angst movie. But so yeah, just over time, you think like Disney movies and how the princess has to be wooed by the prince and he has to save her and all this jazz. But those were the movies we grew up with. Mm-hmm. So even social media now, when people are posting or have stories, they're not showing the ugly sides of their relationships.
No, never.
They're showing look how in love we are. We're the best of friends. We do all these things together. You might be best friends, but even best friends have arguments, disagreements. Mm-hmm. Things aren't always rosy. So yeah. So we're just going to talk about some myths today as far as what society deems on relationships and what the actual truth is. So. Okay. Myth number 1, true love is all you need for a perfect relationship. What are your thoughts on that? Love is all you need.
I think compromise, and understanding
we
the other person.
We say that a lot, but let's be real. We're not very good at compromising either, always.
It's pretty much... I just think of going out to eat. Like, where do you want to go?
Yeah, and then I get mad and I don't want to go.
Why would you want to go there? Because you said you didn't want to pick. So then I picked, and then you hated the place, and then it's overridden by you, and then we ultimately go to wherever you want.
That's not true. I get annoyed when you pick the same place over and over and over.
Well, then don't ask me where I want to go. Yeah, that's where I want to go.
Truth. So love is not always all you need for a perfect relationship, and also. Perfect relationship doesn't exist.
No.
This isn't a storybook. That's not true. So love is essential, but just as you touched on, communication, trust, and effort and compromise are also key ingredients to a good, healthy relationship.
Communication.
Yes.
And I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with, which I think probably a lot of other people struggle with too, is point of view. Like, I say one thing, you hear another thing, or maybe you hear it and I was thinking in my mind, well, this is what I meant, and then you take it as something else, or vice versa. Like it goes the other way too. So just communicating, oh, well, here's what I was meaning, or having that conversation. Hey, you know what? That really made me mad when you said this, or I felt this particular way.
Right.
And we don't do that enough.
I don't want to put like gender things on it because that's not necessarily true that you could have a masculine guy that's more emotional. But I just think in our case, I'm the more emotional one, I think, with my feelings and my emotions
100%.
More. And you obviously are more analytical. You're more strategic in how you think about things. And so sometimes those 2 points of views or feelings can butt heads or 100%. Just can't understand one another. So communicating each other's feelings and thoughts, and well, you might have thought this way, but this is how I thought, and this is my feelings, and this is how I took it. I think that's pretty crucial. And
when we talk about this stuff all the time, and we're like, oh, here's something you need to work on, here's something you need to talk about, if anybody's got any great ideas or great tips and like, oh, well, here's what we did, feel free to share it on our website, financiallyforeverafter.com.
Yeah.
Little comment section you can put. It's now on the website that you can go and say, hey, I have a question, I have a comment, and we'll address it. We'll talk about it on the show.
Or the opposite, if you tried something and it absolutely bombed in your face. We'd love to hear those as well.
Face. Don't do that. And then we'll share that with people.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to give some tips to not do things you shouldn't be doing. So emotional intelligence and problem solving are just as important as romantic feelings. So a lot of times I think love is seen as, oh, it's lovey-dovey. It's just this thought. Oh, it's like, oh, intimate and kissing and all this. But there's so much more. I read a lot of romance novels too. A lot of it's coming from.
You're like, why can't you be like Fabio in the romance? No. I'm like, that guy ain't real. That guy ain't real.
But that is one thing I do appreciate you is your problem solving. You have a pretty good. Not necessarily do I always agree with it, but you have a pretty good grasp on level-headedly coming through with options as far as problem solving. I, again, am more emotional, so sometimes I have to let that clear before I can think.
And from a relationship standpoint, like typically there's one person that's better than the other. Some people can be really good at it. Like Lindsay is so good at so many different things, decorating all this stuff with the house, all the stuff with the kids, like so many different things. But yes, from hey, if we have a contractor that we need to deal with and you're like, oh, I want this done yesterday, or you messed this up, or you did this. I'm like, okay, well, there's two ways to handle it. Both ways will get the thing done. One way will make them really mad and maybe take longer, charge us more. The other way won't.
That's why I let you handle it.
How about I talk with them to get that done?
I get worked up and then I cry or I yell or, it just doesn't go well. So it's sometimes easier to just say, you can go in level-headedly and I let you handle it.
And you know what? Hey, each couple has their strengths. So it's perfectly fine. Just know your strengths and have the other one, do what they're good at.
All right. Myth number 2, marriage solves all problems. It is not the key. Just the same as sometimes people say, having a kid will solve all your problems. Having a pet will solve all your problems. Fill in the blank.
Who says that?
A lot of people.
I don't know.
It's just putting a Band-Aid on an issue.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes if you think, well, this relationship isn't going anywhere, we need to get married because that'll secure it, or, whatever it is. But that can actually be the opposite effect. So marriage can bring new challenges and requires growth and adaptation. We talked about this in last week's episode of adapting to the different stages of a long-term relationship. So it also takes maturity. I feel like you and I being in our 40s now, I'd like to say we're more mature. There's sometimes that doesn't always come across.
I just think of you the other day with one of the dance girls, and you're like, "Hey, where's your coat?" Because it's super cold outside. Oh, hey, where's your coat? Get your coat on.
It's one of our girls' friends. Yeah, all these middle schoolers walking outside.
Like it's -10.
That's just
with
me
the
being
a
old lady.
You're more mature.
You're gonna get cold.
Before, if you would have been
and
young,
they look at me like I'm crazy.
Oh, I'm cool. I don't have a hat on, or I don't that ain't cool.
I'm wearing shorts when it's -20 really out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes active effort and for maintaining a healthy and thriving relationship. So both parties in a marriage have to put. Yeah, it's a give and take. You cannot just be the one taking everything. You cannot be the one just giving everything. It's got to be a back and forth. There's resentment. There's issues. So, and again, it circles back to communication. If you feel like I'm always giving this and this one's never doing anything, they might see it different. They might see, oh, well, I'm actually doing this, but you're not even recognizing it. So having that communication, it's important in a marriage.
I think sometimes too, I don't want to say be your own advocate, but sometimes you've done something for so long, it's just, like you said, taken for granted.
Yeah.
Like, do you actually realize that I get up and do this, this, and this?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, you realize that I do this and this and this? I'm like, no, actually, I probably did, but I haven't thought about that in a very long time.
Yep.
So like actually bringing that up and like, okay, that's good to communicate. And then you can appreciate that person a little bit more.
Right.
It's not like you got to, boast your chest or anything, but you can let them know kind of how you feel. And then, they can tell you the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Myth number 3, the perfect partner doesn't have any flaws.
No.
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 What?
I mean, I'm not saying you. I'm saying me. I have flaws.
Listen, Resand does not have any flaws. All my book girlies out there.
Who? This is another myth person. Let's be real.
Oh, it's the most recent one. Zayden.
Is this one of your fairy books? Your fairy men?
It's a romantasy book.
Oh my gosh.
And they both are
back
actually.
But
no, but you're right. And it goes back to movies and books of just the perfect man is not out there. There's no perfect woman
Thanks
out
for
there.
pointing that out, yeah.
It's just not, it doesn't exist. No one's perfect. Everyone has flaws. There's always issues that are going to arise. So perfection, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, you love these books and you love these because it is a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what it is.
It's an outlet.
To be honest, like marriage is extremely hard work.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be married. Like a relationship is extremely hard work. But at the end of the day, you got to figure like, is it worth it? Like, do I love this person? Do I want to be with this person? You're not with the person for all the things, right? You're in spite of some of the things that they do wrong. You're like, you know what? I accept them for that. I love you for that. Even though that, I might see them as a flaw. It's like, you know what? I'm flawed too. I have things that I need to work on. And you just got to know that you love that other person enough to continue on. It's very mature of you.
And you hit it right on the head. A healthy relationship is built on accepting each other's imperfections and working through challenges. So knowing that I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but we're going to work through these things. There's going to be highs and lows in every relationship. Got to work on it. Myth number 4. You should always feel the spark or butterflies.
Not always true.
Always true.
I do feel a spark a lot. Like I, get excited to see you and give you a hug and, I feel warmth and things of that nature. But but there's some days that it's just like I'm spent.
Yeah.
I had a full day of work. I'm spent or I'm not feeling well or like you just like I don't have a lot to give today.
Right.
It might have anything to do with you, but
Your
it's just
bucket
like, you know what?
It's not full.
My bucket's had a big old hole in it, and it's dry. And I'm sorry, I love you, but today I don't have a lot to give.
Yeah.
And you got to realize the same thing.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, well, I'll give them a hug. Guess I still love them, and tomorrow's a new day.
Right. Exactly. So those intense feelings may fade. It says may, but let's be real here. They're going to fade. If you're in a long-term relationship, you ain't getting those butterflies every time your spouse or partner calls you after it's been a long time.
It's like, oh, what do they need?
Like, what do they want now? What chore list do I need to do now? So it's usually probably the opposite of like, oh,
or that
no.
call. You know what would be nice? No, I don't know what would be nice. Have a good day.
Or it's like, would you do that, or would you want to do this? And you're always like, no, I wouldn't want to do this. Like, okay, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. You are going to do this.
No. See, I appreciate that, and you know that about me. It's like, don't tell me what to do. I freaking hate it. Don't tell me what to do. Ask me, and then I'm more than likely to do it. And
but
I'm
sometimes
fine. I might not want to do it. Like,
do you feel like this? And you're like, no. So I always have to rephrase because you're always like, no.
But I will do it. But
yes.
I appreciate you asking me rather than telling me.
Yes. So it says those intense feelings will fade, but they're replaced by deeper, more stable feelings. So I equate it to just that level of comfort. I actually enjoy the fact that we aren't in that stage anymore. Not that it wasn't fun to like, oh, he's calling me. Oh, he's stopping by. This is so cute. But I actually enjoy the fact that you're my, almost like, I've told you this before, but like my security blanket. Like if I'm anxious or stressed or things just aren't great, just sometimes you hugging me and just having your presence near me can kind of ground me, and I actually enjoy that part of a relationship rather than the butterflies. Not that they weren't great in the beginning, but getting to that level of comfort and feeling like I can pretty much say or do anything around you and you're gonna be there whether it's gross or not.
Yep. I'm like, I didn't need to know that. You can specifically not tell me.
I love that level of comfort of like, oh, let me tell you about this. And you're like, no, I don't. I don't want to know that.
You're like, do you want to hear a story? No, I don't. And then you tell me anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean,
don't even ask.
Again, I just wanted to know if you wanted to know, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to tell you. So the difference between honeymoon phase and long-term love is, again, just that more stability and trust phase. So once you've been in a long-term relationship, they might go away, but again, it's stable. Last one. Jealousy means love.
Jealousy in regards to what? Another person? That person?
You're just jealousy in a relationship. It means they love you.
So I'm jealous of you? Give me an example.
So I think it's more of, I'm jealous if you're talking to another girl. I'm jealous if you're getting emails or texts from whatever it may be, fill in the blank. You're jealous if a guy comes up and starts chatting with me.
See, when you said it, I'm like, why? I'm fine. And then when you said like
a guy's coming to come with me,
you better back off right now.
See, that I was like, this one is hard for you right here. So it's often understood as a sign of love or passion, but it can actually indicate insecurity or control issues. So, moral of the story, jealousy it's not always a cute thing that the guys in the books are, fighting your battles and you will not get close to my woman. No, actually, you need to be able to have that trust. So mutual trust is a key ingredient for love to flourish. So
you also need to know what battle she once fought, because she's like, all right, well, I can solve your problem. You do this and this and this, but you have to know when.
Right, but this is more of the problem, jealousy instance. You don't need to come guns blazing if a guy's chatting with your significant other or vice versa. So again, that's if you're secure in your relationship. If you're not secure and you don't have that trust, maybe you should be jealous, because maybe there is something there. But yeah, so that's the myths. So moral of the story, storybook relationships don't exist. Set realistic expectations for yourself and for your partner, because again, nobody's perfect. But if you just go into it knowing that I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, let's just be real with one another.
Let's not be perfect
have these
together.
Realistic, and the long-term moral takeaway is long-term relationships are a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs. So keep that in mind as you're maybe starting into a new relationship. Maybe you've been in a long-term relationship, but just know that there is no perfect relationship, no matter what social media and the movies might tell you. Oh, let's get on to.
Do you remember how Kyle closed out the best man speech?
No, because I blocked that from my brain.
He says,
Who said this, by the way? Who was this person in our wedding?
This is my brother.
And who was he in the wedding?
The best man.
And he's giving a speech in front of 300 plus people.
Yep. And he said, may all your ups and downs be between the sheets.
And my grandma sat there like this.
It was hilarious.
For you.
Oh, you laughed.
My
and
dad
we're
was
super
there.
Embarrassed.
My parents were there.
We're married.
All right. Well, let's go.
Okay,
to
on
our
that note,
stuff.
we're going to have, since it's the time of the year, first couple months of the year, what typically happens first couple months of the year from a financial perspective? Any idea?
I would say it's tax season.
It is tax season, yes. So do you know the difference from tax preparation compared to tax planning?
Tax preparation would be throughout the year, maybe preparing everything you're going to need come tax season. So you're actively preparing for it, like a squirrel storing up their acorns for the winter.
Okay, I would say that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. I'm
Oh.
thinking in regards to like a CPA or an enrolled agent do it rather than the actual individual.
Okay.
But you wouldn't be wrong on the individual. How about from a professional standpoint?
No, I have no idea. I don't know what they do at all. I don't.
Okay, so a tax preparer is somebody that does your taxes for the year, that says, hey, how much do you owe to the federal government, or how much you're going to get back? Same thing in regards to state. That's what a tax preparer does. However, tax planning is something totally different. Do you know, Lindsay, what tax planning is? Or what would you say tax planning is?
Tax planning is planning in advance for your taxes.
I'm going to say a similar thing.
They know what the taxes are going to look like for the year, and they're planning for it.
Yeah, so tax planning can happen at a various different levels. So it can be from a financial advisor like myself and my team's standpoint. Some CPAs can do it. Some enrolled agents can do it. But tax planning is like, okay, well, how much roughly are we going to be making for the year? And then from there, what can we do from a tax perspective, either to lower that or to increase it? You might say, well, why would you want to increase it? Well, we've talked before about Roth conversions, on how you can say, hey, I want to take some IRA money, move it to the Roth side, so where your money grows tax-free, you get it out tax-free. And if you do that, you must pay the taxes. So that'll add to your taxable income for the year. But right now, how it's called been known as the Trump tax cuts, they're set to expire at the end of 2025. So the tax rates go for a married couple and single as well. They go 10%, 12, 22, 24, and then keep going up. So from there, what's going to happen is once 2026 happens, that 12% rate's going to go up to 15. The 22% rate's going to go up to 25. The 24 is going to go up to 28, and it's going to keep going up. So you might say, well, would I rather pay taxes at a lower tax bracket today, knowing that taxes are going to go up, or do I want to just pay the same amount and then next year I have to pay more? And you could say, all right, well, now that I know that, maybe I do want to do a Roth conversion, or maybe I do want to convert some money into an IUL where I can get my money growing tax-free, get it out tax-free.
Come back. Rewind.
Rewind what?
You just said 2 words that some people might not know what those are.
Growing tax-free?
No, IUL.
Oh, IUL, Indexed Universal Life Policy.
Okay, what is that, babe?
It is a investment vehicle that is a life insurance policy that you can have some long-term care benefits on if it's properly positioned. You could either have it set up to where you can grow the money and say, hey, I want this to be a growth instrument. And hey, like a Roth IRA, you can only put so much money in a year. On an IUL, you can put unlimited amounts of money. Well, you have limited amounts based on what your income is and how much money you have, but there's no maximum. So you could say, hey, I could put 10 grand, 15, 20, 30 grand, and it can be another instrument where you can grow your money tax-free, get it out tax-free. If you pass away, pass it on tax-free, and have long-term care benefits. So you know how we've been signing forms lately on some of the things that I've brought home? You got one of these. So here recently,
I have an IUL.
You have an IUL, yes. And I have multiple IULs, and they're set up to do different things. So one can be set up for growth. The other one can be set up for death benefit and long-term care and things of that nature. So there's different things you can do from a tax preparation standpoint to help yourself out in regards to what your tax is going to look like. But not only now, you also need to think big picture down the road where taxes are going, because we're 36 plus trillion, and that just keeps going up and up and up every single day in debt. And this is going to get worse. It's just going to keep getting worse. We're really at a point of no return where you might think, oh, we can balance the budget. We really start off January 1st, 2025, and about a $1.8 trillion deficit based on the amount of spending that they say that they're going to spend for the year. So 1.8 trillion in the hole. That's why Doge and other things are trying to find ways to cut it. Whether you're on board with that or not, that's totally up to you. But they're trying to find ways to be more efficient in regards to taxes. So other ways you can cut your taxes, you say, hey, well, what if I contributed to a 401k or an IRA? Those are potential ways to lower your taxes for the year. But there are a lot of different ways that you can help yourself out from a financial standpoint by doing tax planning, not tax preparation, because the tax preparation is just for one time a year. How much do you owe or how much you're going to get back? Whereas tax planning can be, throughout the course of the year. And you can be very, very strategic as a financial advisor to do that and to help clients out.
Awesome. That is some good information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Taxes make my eyes glaze over. So
she's like, whoop, whoop, in one ear, out the other ear.
But we got someone who knows what they're doing. Can you imagine if we were both like me and had no idea about any of this?
And that's the thing too. It's like there's a lot of times that one spouse does it all and the other one doesn't.
Or when neither want to do it.
Yeah, neither want to do it. Find somebody that you trust to do it. Find somebody that you trust to help out in regards to the tax planning aspect of it as well. But for the surviving spouse, you at least need to know where to go. Mm-hmm. Like for you, I've said numerous times, like, hey, if something happens to me, I do all the finances, obviously for our family, but here's where you need to go. Mm-hmm. So if something does happen, here's where you need to go. So have a contingency plan if one spouse does it and the other one doesn't.
Yes. And if you do have those burning questions, either for finances or relationship, where can they ask those questions?
Financially for, the number 4, everafter.com. You can put it in there, a question, comment section, or you go to shunkwylerfinancial.com.
Mm-hmm. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel. You can ask those questions. Listening on Spotify and also Apple. So thank you for joining us today on another episode of Financially Forever After, a Love and Money podcast.